Susan Piver, beautiful Buddhist teacher. We're going to talk today about the questions you should ask yourself before you say, I do, or before you say, I wanna. And I also want to talk to Susan about the qualities. She's got 4 qualities for supporting your relationship. We'll get Susan in. Let me see, she's joined. Give me a second to deal with technology. There we go. Here we are. You can find Susan on IG at susan.piver, Piver. And Susan's here. Hello, friend.
This is already a massive success because here we are together.
Yeah, here we are together.
For the last hour, but
how are you feeling about relaunch of hard questions and all these conversations you must be having about like lasting love and love resistance and love longing, and like it's a lot of love talk right now.
a lot of love talk. Yeah. Thanks for asking. I am endlessly fascinated by my own puniness when it comes to
I love you. Yeah.
my own limitations and obstacles. And so I never seem to get tired of talking about it. And it was also, I wrote this book 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was really, really interesting. And I'm sure you would find something similar if you had a chance to really revisit something you wrote a long time ago. Who was that person?
Mm-hmm.
And how, and the person who was thinking of getting married is different than the person who's now been married for 20 years. So it's illuminating.
Mm-hmm. You know, I first came across your work because of the 100 questions, the hard questions. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And there was something, Shambhala did something on you, and I just like, who is this woman who's resistant to marriage? Because at the time I was just like all like, ooh, goo, goo, marry, marry, marry. And it had me pause. Yeah.
What do you think was the nature of that pause?
Did I jump too soon? Am I a jumper? What's the origin wouldn't be the, well, maybe origin is the right word. What's the origin, the impulse for my desire, an important word, especially in a Buddhist context, my desire for commitment. Yeah. And did you know, we haven't talked in a while, I'm like newly in love. So these questions now, like when I got, I'm with my person. And when I got what's that?
That's fantastic.
It's fantastic. It's only fantastic. When I got the book, I'm reading it with new eyes. So I read it in one sitting, and we just went for a walk this morning. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this interview with this beautiful Buddhist teacher friend, Susan, and the hard questions. And we started asking each other some hard questions. Yeah.
How did it go? How was it?
Well, he's deep and he's open, and he said, he used the term at our age, and I was like, can we just not use the term at our age?
I feel you.
Let's not.
I feel you.
But just, assumptions you make until you hit the bumpy moment, and how to not make assumptions anymore. And it's good to ask questions every day.
I found that, what we argue about or what I argued about in past relationships or felt disconnected by was not necessarily anything to do with love or sex, which is when you're in a love affair, that's what you're doing. But there were questions about our life. Those were the things that tended to create arguments, obstacles, divisions, and the things that we don't necessarily talk about, nor should we, when we're in love. But the thing that made me write this book to begin with was just because you love someone does not mean you will be able to create a life together that you both love. That seemed really, so why didn't anyone tell me that? You think you love someone, it's just great to be together. But then there's the whole life that you make, and home and children, or perhaps, or spirituality. And those are the things that I realize tend to trip us up. So that's.
So how do you know? How does one know? Do you have to, is this about excavation and determining if this is like, we can build a life together quality stuff?
Good. Yeah, that's the question. Well, you don't know. That's the Buddhist part. You don't know. There's never going to be yes or no. It's always going to be yes and no. So, however, two things. One, if you don't love the person, and no, or there's just some, I want to be with you, that if that's not there, then it doesn't matter. And then for most people, for some people, it's fine to just have all the exterior stuff and locked in, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's also really important to say, I think, that you don't have to agree on any of the answers. You can have totally different, that's fine. It's instructive. What's not okay, or what seems to be troubling, is when you don't know how this person would answer and you're not willing to hear. Because the hope for the hard questions is not get a contract and sign it and everything's figured out, but know each other. Just feel who this person is and their heart, and see if they will listen to your heart.
Do you think it's core to being human that we want to be understood? And is that, where does the desire to be understood fit in enlightenment?
It's a very interesting question. Yeah, understood, I would say it is human. And feeling seen is the ultimate intimacy. Whether you like what you see or you don't like what you see, but being known. And in the Buddhist view, as I was taught, now I've been a Buddhist practitioner as long as I've been married, more than 20 years in both cases. There's this sense that in this samsaric realm, for lack of a better way of saying it, it's always going to miss a little bit. It's always going to miss a little bit. And now what? Now what?
Now what to do in light of the inevitable missing?
And that it's never, I'm sorry, this is horrible news, but it's never going to quite work out. But that doesn't mean that your heart can't shatter and heal and rebuild and expand and burst with love. Absolutely not.
So it always works out.
From that perspective, it always works out. But the interesting thing about love is, and I wrote a book about heartbreak too, The Wisdom of a Broken Heart. And I've written Four Noble Truths of Love, lots and lots of love things, heartbreak things. And my conclusion, this is just my observation, is that love and heartbreak are not different. They are not different. Heartbreak is just love unbound from an object. And unbound, it just is uncontainable. When there's an object, it gives you some containment, some form, some space for your heart to express itself. But the amount of love in your heart is absolutely boundless. That's my observation. What do you think?
I think, well, when you say heartbreak, I want to say heart broken open. I understand what you're saying about the object. I've struggled my whole life with the object and non-object. And it's been so interesting, as an understatement, to be in love in that at the beginning of it, so I fell in love and I fell apart.
How
And
do you know?
every psychologist in my life, some of whom were on retainer and other who were just friends, just said, "Oh, you're right on time. This is what happens. If you are playing deep, you finally can exhale." I've been just keeping myself together with cosmic chicken wire for decades, right? And now there's a level of exhaling that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think my ego needed to shatter. Like in the early weeks, I'm saying, this isn't me. Oh my, I want you to know the real me. And this isn't me. I'm feeling anxious and clingy, and this health stuff came up. And I also know, but I just knew this on a kind of intellectual research level. It's like relationships get tested because love dissolves the ego. And I'm just like, and I actually, to my credit, I could feel gratitude in the agony in the beginning because they're just like, this is our test. There might be more, but I'm so glad to get the test out of the way within the first few months where I'm just a basket case. And my struggle, back to the point about object and no object, was I felt tremendous guilt almost. This is a Catholic hangover. This is a New Age hangover too, the dark side of the New Age, of having an object for my love.
Hmm.
And that I thought, oh, maybe I should just go back to like considering if I should be a nun, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, my man's name is Will. I would say, well, is it okay to like I'm starting to like really want this and need this. And he'd
Mm-hmm.
say, he's all deep and wise and lovely. And he'd say, this is what people do, Danielle. You'd be like, oh, right, this is what people do. And then now I'm at a place, I kind of made it through that portal of, this is God now. This is life now. And this very human experience has helped me be like, God is everywhere. And I'm learning to love myself and my humanity and spirit and all of it more through this little container, this portal called a romantic relationship. It's fucking great. And I'm in.
I'm so happy for you.
And but what do you do as a Buddhist in love, to be like non-attachment, but I love being attached. It's
Well, you know
great.
what?
Building a life together is great.
Here's what I say to non-attachment. Is it okay? Can I say that?
That's the
Because,
best news ever.
yeah, right? Well, here's about people that are constantly telling you shouldn't be attached. Well, this is what I would say to them. But the thing is, and this is really important, I think, they're attached to non-attachment. So
Yeah.
it's automatically a bust. You can be attached to non-attachment. And that's what is often counseled in New Agey circles, or just generally speaking, the interpretation of the Buddhist teaching on non-attachment is don't do it. Well, that's the opposite. That's not accurate. Attachment, there is no problem with attachment. It's a problem to be attached to non-attachment because you're just spinning your wheels. But when you are attached, when you are in love, that's fabulous. That's not a problem. And so you feel it, you notice it, you discover the claustrophobia and liberation of attachment. And you ride it and you stay with it and you observe it and you feel it. And it arises, it abides, and it dissolves in moments, in lifetimes, in periods of time. And non-attachment is going with arise, abide, dissolve, without trying to stick in one place. It's in a continual state of flow is actually more accurate way of describing what is meant by non-attachment. So anyone who tells you you're so attached, you shouldn't be so attached, like you are exhibiting attachment right now, and you're attached to my responses to things. That's especially not okay.
And my experience, like, I'm finding out, not new awareness, but the ego loves to hide in spirituality, and it's the best place, really, if you want to hide in plain sight. And the whole non-attachment conversation is just like, I'm really like, this is a trip for the ego to come and just create more division and
Yes.
more, like, why would you resist love? This is the call. This is, why would you resist love? Whether it's a significant other and you're going to make vows, or it's the dude on the corner and you're realizing that could be me, that is me. Why would you, why resist love? But we have to talk about clinging though.
Okay.
Can you speak to the cling, the shadow side of attachment, the hungry ghost, how this manifests for me is I want this to stay this way all the time. And that's just a recipe for disaster.
It is, because it's not possible. And it's, so a couple things on clinging. And hungry ghost is a great way of describing it. Hungry ghost in the Buddhist world there's 6 realms of existence: the human realm, the jealous God realm, the hell realm, various realms, and the hungry ghost realm. And we all visit all the realms all the time. Throughout the day, throughout even a moment, you could visit any of the realms, although we live in the human realm, which is considered the most advantageous for achieving liberation, as opposed to the God realm, which sounds great. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. But the Buddha appears in each realm, by the way. And in the God realm, the Buddha just doesn't say anything, just plays an instrument, because you can't get through to people in the God realm because they're perfect. So I'm not going to wake up. Anyway, the hungry ghosts are people with giant mouths and really tiny necks. So they're hungry all the time, but enough nourishment. So that is a great way of describing clinginess in one level. So when I get clingy, I say to my husband, I'm very clingy right now, and I'm clinging to you. And I literally just cling to him. And so far, luckily, he's very sweet. He's like, okay, go ahead, cling on. And so I just do. And then that's cool, luckily. And if you can experience your own clinging as a desire for more love, as an expression of your own loving heart, as opposed to the way we're often encouraged to think of it as neediness and not independent enough and not strong, that's not useful. But I'm awash in my wish for love and fear, perhaps, that you're going to miss me. Like, I'm going to be here and you're just going to not see me or understand me. And I'm afraid right now. So can you hear me in my fear? And it's true with all the hard questions, not just this issue of clinging, about which there are no hard questions. It's all a path not to more love. This is my discovery, but to more intimacy. And those are different.
Tell us about the difference, yeah.
Love is what you feel and the high and the beauty, and it's real. I'm not saying it's some illusion. It's really real, and it's as close to being transported to a God realm as any of us will ever get, and it's heavenly, truly, and real. I'll just say that again. Yay, I hope we all visit that planet as many times as possible. But then we come back here, and there's still love. There still can be romance, but romance tends to dissipate. Not all the time, but sort of in moments. But intimacy has no end. That's what I can commit to for a lifetime. Not love, because love comes and goes. But intimacy, we're never going to get to the end of that. How much do you know me? How much can I know you? How much am I willing to feel and take in and offer? That, there's no end to that. So that we can make a to do.
Okay, let's go here. So I believe that we are divine love. So I choose the term divine love just to create a little distinction from love and the pop songs that are really just mentally programming us to be hurt and to hurt. So let's just go for divine love.
Okay.
Divine love. the stuff of creation, the matter. It's the fabric. It's the space. It's all the all. So let's put that in your theory of love and intimacy. So I'm going to say divine loves everything. Intimacy is it's just the constant revealing, the unfurling of our awareness of divine love. It's like, I love Ram Dass's term, I am loving awareness. I love the double entendre in that. It's like, I am loving awareness. And also, I am loving awareness itself. So intimacy for me intimacy is my favorite word right now. I think it could, not to cling, but I might be writing that as my favorite term for the rest of my days. But it's that constant, this is how I know I'm in love. I want to know him. And there's also something about, I'm just loving the human realm more than I ever have. And my first big explosion of human realm was becoming a mother to my son. And it's been amazing, Susan, the similarities of loving my child and being romantically in love. It's the same vibration of, I want to know everything about you. I'm as unconditional as I can possibly be in this moment. Lots of limitations, and I can, hit my jerkness, but and honesty. I was thinking about, in the Hard Questions, the book, you've got the 4 qualities that support relationships, and I just thought this is so much like motherhood as well. So honesty, good manners, compassion, and courage. Can you run through honesty for us? These are words we might not always embody. What does honesty really mean, especially in the context of a relationship?
Well, yeah, it doesn't mean just saying anything that pops into your head. Obviously, that probably doesn't need saying, but it means first knowing the truth.
Knowing the truth yourself.
That's the first. Do you know the truth of what's in your heart in this moment, and this moment, and this moment? And do you know that you don't know? That's what I mean by honesty. Do you know what's, and if not, now what? Do you blah, 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 try to reason it out with yourself, with your partner, with a therapist or a friend, or do you hold? People are wired different ways. I'm a holder. I'm just going to hold because I don't know.
I'm a blurter. I'm a blurter partnered with a holder. It's actually great. Yeah.
I'm a holder partnered with a blurter.
There's a book. There's your next book. There's a personality test in here. We can monetize it. It'll be great. Okay. Good manners.
Good manners. Good manners here means thoughtfulness. Are you thinking about this person? Duncan, my husband, is having some weird things at work right now. So the good manners here is to inquire about that and to not lose track of that. Not that I would lose track of it, but to think about what is his experience when he's at work and when he comes home. What might he be feeling or wondering, or checking in with him during the day? And that's what I mean by good manners. It means actually thinking about the other person, tracking their experience, and not forming your life around it, but having awareness of who they are and what they're going through. And then, as feels right to you, making space and accommodations and gestures that show that you understand. I mean by good manners.
And not taking any of it personally if your needs aren't getting met.
You can take it personally, I would say. You can take it personally, you can get upset, you can feel anything you want. You just can't hold them responsible.
Right. Yeah. Compassion. Talk to us about compassion.
Yeah. Compassion is often conflated with being nice. And it isn't. It is not the same as being nice. It's not being sweet. It's not being a good person. It's not any of that. Compassion is more similar to awake than nice. So when you're awake, you're actually paying attention, and then you see what's happening around you, and you feel within your heart what's happening with your partner, with yourself, and then what you do, what arises in terms of words or gestures or non-words or non-gestures is in accord with what's real. So compassion is much more about being awake and fearless, because it takes fearlessness to be awake, and just see what is rather than what you hope is. And then whether you get angry in response or say nothing or are the sweetest, most loving, kind person in the world, that's compassion. And it can include any state of mind or form of expression.
Can we go on a side track here for a second? What's your feeling, your thoughts about the term, just the term presence?
Well, it means at once everything and is like compassion in the sense of compassion being conflated with nice, is conflated with something that isn't exactly presence. It's because once you're observing your presence, you're not quite present. So it's, in the Buddhist view, this is impossible for me to understand, but I've been studying it and been taught this. It's about living in some sort of recognition of non-dual reality.
Yes. Yeah.
Once you're observing, you're out of it. I don't know how to do it. What are your thoughts?
Very similar. And this is a fairly recent revelation. It's like to even say like I'm present is resisting what I am. Like really, it's presence is the declaration of I am this right now. If I'm distracted, I am this right now. If I'm gazing, I am this right now. Like, you know, and I especially in the relationship space, you know, the self-help lexicon. It used to be my trip, and this is very kind of pop culture of like making a demand that my partner be present. You're not being present with me. And that entitles me to be offended. And that entitles me to make a demand that you be more present. You're not tired. I know you're tired, but you need to bring it because, you know, king, queen, and you need to bring it. It's just like, no, this is what is. Long day at work. Very conversational, deep, eye-gazing, distracted. This is it. And I can have my feelings about what is, but as soon as I get into that judgment of you're not present because you're not checking off this list for me, then I'm not present. I'm not even honest enough in that moment to say, oh, this is how I feel. This, you know, and it just is a block to love. Demanding someone's so-called presence is actually really divisive. And I think it's the opposite of compassion. I mean, that's why I'm asking in that context, because compassion feels like, I mean, here's the irony, right, with words. Compassion feels like true presence, awakeness.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it is. And I will add to what you're saying, it hurts when someone's not present to us.
Yeah.
It genuinely does. And you're entitled to be heard. You're not entitled to be, in my opinion, blaming. Be, what's the word I'm looking for? Truthful. It hurts. It hurts when I feel like you're not paying attention to me, and that kind of hurts me. That's totally fair, I think. Otherwise it gets into a little bit of a gaming. I shouldn't do this, I should do that. And you're probably absolutely right. One of the primary forms of courage is, am I willing to see you rather than who I think you should be, rather than who I wish you were right now? Can I open to you? And the closer we get and the longer the relationship is and the more intense it is and the more is on the line and the more our ego or our portals open up and we feel unsteady, the less likely we are to actually see the other person. And the more we tend to lean on, I need you to be this person, or I need you to be that person, which is, we all have that. But the courage is to let that go. I want to make one very important caveat: unless there's abuse or addiction involved, then that's a whole different situation. But otherwise, am I brave enough to be with you, to see you, and to experience all that means to me, rather than hold you to this form that I thought I wished you were.
It's such a beautiful twist on things. I mean, when I hear courage in relationships, mostly I'm self-referencing. I think, do I have the courage to show up? Do I have the courage to be expressive?
Mm-hmm.
This is
it's
more beautiful.
more beautiful. Interestingly, and I'm sure this will not be the case forever, if you look at the books about love and relationships, 99% are about how to get love.
Yeah.
Almost 0% are about how to give love, how to be loving. And that makes sense, because especially as women, there's been a lot of emphasis put on you should do this and you should do that. But most of the books are about how to attract it, how to keep it, how to make it come back, how to show up in it. Some of them are really good, some of them aren't. But there are very few books that are non-religious that are about how to give love. And I think for you and I, we want to be loved. But there's also, I just notice in your work all the time, around the clock, a real emphasis on how do I give love. And I really appreciate you for that.
Thank you. This is core to A Course in Miracles, really. And A Course in Miracles talks about the longing for a special relationship, and that being in relationship with someone who you perceive to be unique and wonderful and special, all these things, is really the ego saying, because you're great, then I must be great. I mean, I'm putting that in kind of in a pop way. And it really emphasizes, well, I think, I'll put this in my own words, really like the disillusion with the ego through being love. And my experience is that the more I just let it come through, that virtue of divine love, and focus on giving, just focus on giving, like it all works out. You get what you want, the legit aspiration for reciprocity, for love, but just give, just forgive, just give them a break, just be the one who shows up. And there's just so much more flow. And I slip all the time, and I move into a quiet, I'm quietly demanding. It's very sulky, because you're not fitting this. And I'm taking more responsibility on getting out of that. Responsibility without punishment, that's tricky. Of like, I've been so uninvolved in this moment. Just like, no, I got quiet, got sulky. How can I love you right now? And you expand. You feel powerful, loving.
That's the thing. The Dalai Lama said, if you want to be unhappy, think about yourself, which is a dangerous thing to say, especially to women. Please think about yourself. Nonetheless, he said that if you want to be unhappy, think about yourself. If you want to be happy, think about others. And he wasn't saying that, oh, you should be a goody two-shoes. He was saying that because it is empowering to think of others. They come from a position of and agency and beneficence. And when you only think about yourself, which we all must do, we shrink. And it's very poverty. So some balance is really important. So I agree with you. So does the Dalai Lama.
So does the DL, the DL and the DL. In all the conversations you've had recently, let's say in recent time, about love, about the new book, The Hard Questions, about even your Four Noble Truths of Love, what are people most curious about? Because I'm interested in, like, what's the gestalt right now? What's the trend around love with a small love and love with a true reality love?
Well, that's a very interesting question. And what comes to my mind is some wish to feel safe.
Mm, 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 mm,
And that makes complete sense.
mm, mm.
However, there is nothing less safe than love.
The Buddhist punctuation point. Yeah.
I mean, when most of us say we want love, that's true. But what we also mean is, I want to be safe. I don't want to be scared. I don't want to be threatened. I want to cocoon in some way. And there can be vast moments and periods of time where that is true. But love is always putting something on the line. And there's nothing. So we often try to make weird bargains with each other. Well, don't do this and I won't do that. And when I say you should be this way, then what I expect is that. Great, that's fine. But we end up making more and more detailed contracts with each other, and like to not scare each other. And I don't know what that's called, but I don't think it's called love. So love is never safe. I have to say this, or I'll lose my card carrying, my Buddhist card that's in my wallet. All relationships will end, whether through various ordinary means or because we perish. So can you be on that dot? I will love you knowing that this will end. Can you be on that dot without over smushing your face in it and without ignoring it? To me, that is the courage also that is necessary. And it makes everything precious and alive and terrifying and beautiful beyond any conventional view we might have, to hold the end in mind, if lightly.
And not ironically, that's where you hit that strand of eternity too. Like it's unchanging. It is lasting, and poof.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then poof.
And then poof. Thank you for your work in the world. You are helping people get real.
That's the biggest compliment. And I really appreciate that. And 100 dittos. And I love talking with you. It's just, it's expansive and delightful and heartful, and just really appreciate it. Thanks.
Here's my prayer. I pray that the hard questions lead people to their gentle nature. Because so much love happens there. Yeah. Yeah. Deep respect. I love you, Susan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.